Child abuse. It's real and it's painful in so many ways. Hi, I'm Bobby Dennis. I will be your facilitator for this year's Child Abuse Update video. During the last 10 years, specialists in DISD's Child Abuse Office have handled over 97,000 calls reporting child abuse or neglect. Every one of those calls is so important. Each one literally can represent a life or death situation. Child abuse is found in all community, social, and ethnic groups. Historically, child abuse is underdetected and underreported. As school district employees, you play a vital role in identifying and reporting victims of suspected child abuse and neglect. Child abuse is defined as any act or failure to act on the part of a parent or caretaker which results in death, serious physical or emotional harm, sexual abuse or exploitation, or an act or omission by a person which presents an imminent risk of serious harm. There are several types of child abuse and neglect we will discuss later in this video. This video will include the state laws and local policies related to child abuse and neglect, types of child abuse and neglect, procedures for reporting suspected child abuse and neglect. But first, Dallas ISD attorney Johnny Jallow will update you on state laws and local policies related to alleged child abuse and neglect and district employees' responsibilities.
State law requires school personnel to report suspected cases of child abuse or neglect within 48 hours to Child Protective Services or the police. You may report anonymously. Failure to report within 48 hours is a criminal offense, punishable as a Class B misdemeanor. The authorities to be notified are local or state law enforcement, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, Child Protective Services Division at 1-800-252-5400, a local office of Child Protective Services, the state agency that operates, licenses, certifies, or registers the facility in which the alleged abuse or neglect occurred, the District Child Abuse Domestic Violence Office at 1-888-572-2873. The Dallas ISD Board of Trustees requires all district employees to immediately report suspected child abuse. In order to assist employees in making immediate reports, the district has implemented a one-call system for child abuse reporting. The District Child Abuse Domestic Violence Office is authorized to accept reports of abuse and make referral to the appropriate agency. Reporting within 48 hours is a requirement of state law, but district policy requires an immediate oral report, followed by a written report within 48 hours. Failure to report may be grounds for termination. As well, an individual who fails to report has no immunity and may be subject to civil and criminal penalties. However, pursuant to the Texas Education Code, Chapter 26.0091, employees may not report or threaten to report to CPS a parent or guardian who does not administer or consent to the administration of a psychotropic drug to a child, or who refuses to consent to psychiatric testing, psychological testing, or treatment for the child, unless the employee believes the refusal, 1, presents a substantial risk of death, disfigurement, or bodily injury to the child, or 2, has resulted in an observable and material impairment to the growth, development, or functioning of the child. If you suspect abuse but are not sure, the statute provides immunity for individuals who, in good faith, report child abuse or neglect or otherwise assist with an investigation. When the police department or Child Protective Services are conducting an investigation of child abuse, it is important that we offer our full cooperation. An individual who interferes with a police investigation may also be subject to criminal charges. School administrators cannot deny CPS or a police investigator's request to interview a student at school. The investigator may interview the student without the consent of a parent and may interview the student alone. School personnel must require CPS or police to submit proof of identity, including picture ID and badge number, prior to conducting an interview. If the investigator refuses to provide identification, the administrator should notify Dallas ISD Police and Security Services immediately. Do not attempt to detain or obstruct the officer. Should Child Protective Services or the police take a child from school, it is the responsibility of that agency to notify the parents concerning this action. School personnel should not notify parents or the suspected abuser of an investigation of child abuse. Report child abuse. It's the right thing to do, and it is the law.
Remember, as school district employees, we are the children's greatest advocates, and they depend on us to provide them with a safe and nurturing environment while at school. Child Protective Services, CPS. What exactly is Child Protective Services? Child Protective Services is the agency specifically set up to investigate allegations of abuse and neglect through the Texas Family Code. This is different than a criminal investigation that is governed by the Penal Code. Child abuse is a horrific and growing problem. In Texas, in the year 2006, there were 275,539 reports received and 163,795 investigations of child abuse completed. 41,406 were confirmed to be true. In Dallas County, we received 36,745 reports, 9,563 confirmed to be true. Once a report is made to CPS, it is prioritized according to the risk of immediate harm to the child. Priority 1 referrals are responded to within 24 hours. Priority 2 referrals within 5 days. The priority is determined by many factors, but age and vulnerability are considered heavily when this decision is made. An investigator is likely to interview school-age children at school. This is to ensure that the child feels free to disclose any abuse in a neutral environment. A very small percentage of our victims have to be removed and placed in foster care. However, it is important to know that CPS is dedicated first to providing safety for children. CPS cannot do this job alone. It is essential that CPS have a strong collaborative relationship with the Dallas ISD and the Dallas Police. Truly, teachers spend more time with their children than parents and are the first line of defense for recognizing potentially abused victims. CPS and the child abuse detectives of the Dallas Police function as a team with each partner investigating their part. The Dallas Police Department has a program, CART, Child Abuse Response Team, supervised by a lieutenant and staffed by one detective who investigates all criminal charges related to child abuse in Dallas and referrals involving Dallas ISD employees. It really does take all of us to ensure that all Dallas children have the opportunity to grow up strong and safe. Now let's review the types of child abuse and neglect and some of the indicators. Please remember that other signs and indicators may be present. Physical abuse is the non-accidental injury of a child that results in substantial harm to the child or the genuine threat of substantial harm. For example, cruel and unusual punishment, unexplained bruises, black eyes, fractures and dislocations, or multiple injuries after being absent from school. Emotional abuse involves causing or permitting the child to be in a situation in which the child sustains a mental or emotional injury that impairs the child's growth, development, or psychological functioning. For example, failure to thrive in infancy or a child being scapegoat. Sexual abuse includes sexual contact and exploitation of a child. For example, sexual intercourse, pregnancy or venereal disease in a young child, exposing a child to sexually explicit material for the purpose of the gratification of the adult, or failure to protect a child. Abandonment is the leaving of a child without the intent of returning. Neglect is the failure to meet the child's needs in terms of food, clothing, shelter, medical care, safekeeping or supervision, and nurturance. For example, an infant left in the care of his or her elementary-age sibling or elementary-age children left alone for long periods of time or overnight without adult supervision. Violation of the compulsory school attendance law may also be reported as a form of neglect after all applicable school district strategies have been implemented and the student remains truant.